We are here with Jay. And Jay, I wanted to ask you about Man Seeking Woman, your show. What brought you to this series on FXX?
Yeah, it was a thoroughly unromantic Hollywood story. A script landed on my lap, and I inhaled it and I laughed out loud the entire time. And but at the time, circumstances had dictated that I didn't think I'd be available to do it, and so with a heavy heart, I had passed on it. Stupidly. But like I said, previous obligations dictated that decision. Few months went by and my obligation ended. And for whatever combination of reasons, they still hadn't found their guy yet. And yeah, I was fortunate enough to not have disenfranchised them completely. And I guess in a little bit of kismet, it was meant to be, and we were able to do this to shoot that crazy pilot, which I never thought I'd be talking about. 2 months, two seasons of a TV show after that thing. I adored it, but I also was like, this is way too crazy. There's no way we're gonna get to do more of these.
I guess what you said when you first read that script, you were just laughing out loud. What about that script? What about this sort of show just appealed to your sense of comedy?
Well, I loved how and love how specific it is, how unabashed it is in going for what it's going for, which is this kind of absurdist take on what it is to be single. And I thought that Simon had kind of cracked this pretty incredible formula of going to some very, very heavily weird places in one moment, and then sort of biting that with incredibly minute, specific, almost mumblecore-y kind of realism. And and so I thought these two forms played defense against each other, but also enhanced one another in a really, really interesting way. And needless to say, I had never read anything kind of remotely similar to that. So it was this incredibly dry, played very real, sort of bit of a hate mail towards being single and what it is to be dating. But yeah, combined with this really crazy, cartoon come to life. And so yeah, there was, it's not very often you can legitimately say you're doing something unlike anything else. Right, 99% of all TV shows or movies, you can sort of boil down to this meets that, whatever. The Avengers meets Notting Hill, whatever. You can always kind of find those two, and our show defies any comparison, which is horrifying but incredibly exciting. And I count myself incredibly lucky to be at the forefront of it.
As the lead actor on the show, how do you sort of when you come to act in it, when you come to perform in this series, how do you weigh those sort of very very based in reality in terms of the themes it's dealing with in terms of singleness and relationships and stuff, while at the same time the very surreal aspects of the show?
I mean, it sort of all boils down to the same goal. The mission is the same, and I'm going to wax incredibly earnest actor here, but you got to serve the story and serve the truth of the moment. And I would go so far as to say that that's the gig in any TV show, in any movie, in any genre. On our show in particular, we go to very, very crazy places, as has been firmly established, and the only way that we can really pull those off is if we play them kind of super real, right? The whole point is for the audience to hopefully see themselves in these situations, even if it's with a penis monster, or I'm having sex with a car, or something incredibly outlandish. They'll if we've done our jobs correctly, they get what we're saying, and they see themselves in those situations. And I think that the only way we're able to do that is if we play it completely straight. Like if the show acknowledged how crazy it was every time it was crazy, I I don't know that we'd be having this conversation still.
It's a very symbolic show. Like, whether it's dating a troll or the girl you like going out with Jesus, or, or the two robots fighting in your season final. Is there a particular symbol or symbolic sort of metaphor that the show's used that is sort of your favorite from the two seasons?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Yeah. I'd have to say probably there's kind of two icons that leap out at me. One is and I think it's in the finale of season 1, when my ex tells me that she's getting married, and my heart literally explodes. And I'm just sat there in the middle of a restaurant during brunch, and my heart explodes and starts gushing blood all over the table. So that one I think is pretty brilliant and holds a great deal of truth. And then I'll say it. Forgive my salty language, but I think everybody's fucked a car at one time or another.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So do the ones you find the funniest or your favorite, are they the ones that resonate, that you can connect with most, that you sort of go, oh, I've felt that? Yeah,
100%. And I think that the show is so, and for those moments that we sort of try and touch on a bunch of really what we think are very universal classic beats that any single person goes through. But if we arrive at some that I don't have a specific frame of reference for, well, it helps that the show is the writing is so bloody strong on our show that they do all the heavy lifting for me. I sort of just have to show up. That being said, when you make a show like this, what happens on set is it becomes just a sort of a pissing contest of misery to a certain degree. Everyone's always airing their dirty laundry. You can't help it. It becomes part of the lingua franca on set. And so if there's any sort of experience that I myself hadn't gone through, I guarantee you it's a matter of about 5 minutes before someone else volunteers something they went through that's incredibly similar. So there's more than enough masochism and sadism to draw upon in real life. There.
Have you ever taken part in that pissing contest? Have you ever offered a scenario that's been used in the show?
None that have been used. Nothing I've volunteered has made it. Well, actually, that's not true. That's not completely true. I don't want to sound. Listen, you got to be careful. I don't want to sound like I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm almost certain that Jesus's affinity for John Wick stems from my own affinity for John Wick. I'm almost certain I saw that movie on a weekend while we were shooting, and I came in Monday morning singing its praises. I remember. I think what Jesus says to me verbatim is like half of what I said to people. So I think that I think John Wick, Jesus's big push for John Wick comes from mine. But don't hold me on that.
Yeah. And how great was it to have Fred Armisen this season come in and play Jesus? Was that how great was it?
It's super cool. It's the greatest. I mean, that's kind of like one of the one more yet another amazing thing about being part of this show is that we're sort of part of the Broadway Video SNL family, and so what that from Lorne, in his producerial capacity, and Andrew Singer, to Simon, who came of age working on SNL, and so what it means is we constantly have we're spoiled for riches when it comes to guest stars, and not just from the Saturday Night Live connection, there's a lot of kids in the hall in our show's DNA. And also it helps that we shoot the show in Toronto, which is like one of the great sort of improv comedy cities in North America. And so like I said, just spoiled for riches. And so, yeah, like I said, one more amazing thing to love about this show is that like they're going to write an awesome character. Chances are someone awesome is going to come and play them.
Yeah, that was such a fun episode. And so like, I love you running the campaign to be the boyfriend and sort of like using all those parallels with, you weren't wanting to make a move on her. You're just positioning yourself so if something else happened, you'd be there to take it over. And I think like that was a very what you do when you like someone who's going out with someone. And then the person turns out to be an amazing person, and there's, you know, like
and then you feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's that's exactly right. No, like I think like one of the amazing things that the show says is that like, yeah, at our core, we're all incredibly selfish and self-serving, but usually as an effort to find someone else. And so it ends up being this funny little gray area, you know, that we're just sort of social creatures, and you know, 99% of us need to find that other person, and the amount of degradation we'll allow ourselves to go through for these little moments of validation. You know, I think that's you know, I think we could spend 100 years making episodes about that stuff.
Yeah, you have the perfect day, yet you hear the girl you like's going out with someone else, and it was an awful day.
And then it sucks. Yeah, no, I win an elevator cash prize. I land a pretty sweet, I don't even know you call it a 3-pointer. It's probably like a 300-pointer. Yeah. All this awesome shit happens, but she doesn't even say anything rude. All she says is I'm having lunch with my boyfriend. So it's amazing how one word said by one specific person can ruin the whole day.
What do you think the show says about singleness and about relationships in today's sort of age? Like, what is there a message that the show's trying to send?
Yeah, I mean, I think it says that like being single is as miserable as you let it be, right? You know, to constantly be proactively dating is probably to beat the piss out of yourself. You know, I think, you know, Josh spends the better part of 2 years kind of trying to stand up on his own 2 feet, you know, trying to find his sea legs, as opposed to just going from, as I think a lot of people do, you go from situation to situation and never sort of rectifying the stuff inside you that needs to be rectified. Plus, I just think it says dating is a fucking garbage fire, and it always has been, and it always will be. You know, that's kind of half the fun, and why we can get away with having Hitler and Jesus and monsters on our show is that like we're trafficking in very timeless, universal truths. And so, yes, while we can spend half an hour talking about, you know, making light of the stress one goes through trying to craft a decent text, you know, replace text with stone tablet and the joke works 2,000 years ago, you know? And so I think it's same as it ever was, you know. The apocalypse is always, judgment day is always, the kingdom of heaven is within every man. And you know, just do your best and try to not get the shit kicked out of you on the way up.
Yeah, it's funny you say like being like singles as miserable as you want it to be. It's probably the same thing with sometimes being in relationships as miserable as you want them to be too.
That's
like,
it. Yeah, dead on, man. Yeah, very, very, very important truth that begs mentioning. Yes, you know, it's life. Period. You're as miserable as you want to be.
What do you think, how miserable do you think Josh wants to be?
I think, like, you know, like anybody, he is the architect of, you know, the lion's share of his crap. You know, that's, and I think that one of the things I love about the show is that it really forces Josh to own his stuff. You know, like one of my favorite episodes is the one where Josh gets righteously indignant at how nice he'd been to Rosa, and that the least she could do is date him. What silly, useless logic, very, very flawed logic, yet that rationale so many people hold dear. And I think that, we did such an awesome job of forcing him to have a taste of his own medicine when the homeless guy walks through the door. And so like Josh is constantly learning, and I think that's so. Yeah, to answer your question, I think he's as miserable as he's meant to be. And I think that, but I also do think that he is growing. I do think that like though he falls into the same pitfalls, I don't know that he keeps making the same mistake. And by the way, I think that that's like a lot of people, that every relationship is a mistake until you find the right one, I suppose. Not to say that there's a merit to be found in all the bad ones, but like, it's the bowl of porridge, right? You got to find the one that's just right.
What do you think something Josh knows now that he didn't know in the pilot?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. Very, very good question. Holy shit. Now I'm on the spot here. I would think he's got to have at least starting to have a better understanding of what he wants and who he's supposed to be. I definitely think he's less desperate than he once was. And I think he, as he nears the sort of end of his 20s, like a lot of people, I think he starts kind of zeroing in on a bit more of a comfort level. I think he's like, he's clearly not supposed to be Maggie's boyfriend. He's clearly not supposed to be Rose's boyfriend. He's clearly not supposed to be a video game designer. He's trying on a lot of shoes that don't fit. And I don't think he's going back to trying them again. So I think he's like, yeah, as boring as it sounds, I think he's just growing up.
Now, if you were to get nominated for the Emmys for lead actor in a comedy series, you would have to submit an episode. What episode would you choose from season 2?
For me personally, oh Jesus. Oh gosh, that's like a hard one for me to. That's like an almost impossible question for me to answer because I think they're all good, and I think I killed it in all of them. No, it's a weird one. Like I'm quite proud of the work I've done on the show, and but I also. I don't mean to sound incredibly hokey, but like, it's hard for me to focus on any one specific aspect as being the best part of the show. It is a cliche, but there's a reason it's a cliche. It's said so often. It's like it's truly a collaboration. We have a great deal of people firing on all cylinders across every department on our set and our production, and after set and post production, and so. I'm trying to think of like the one that I think is probably the episode. I can probably say the episode that I think made me laugh the hardest. The one where Eric and I are cops is pretty awesome, I think, and the one with the Kyle's pretty strong. But yeah, actually no. Here's the one. Even though I'm not really in this one, this would be the episode I'd submit. It would be where my sister dates Santa, because my buddy Michael Dowse directed that episode, and I think Britt destroys on it, and I think it's like the heaviest half hour on television. I think it's like incredibly dark and really graphic and pretty brilliant stuff. So yeah, if I was to be nominated, I would submit the episode that I'm not in.
I would not advise you to submit that episode. I would strongly caution against the what you're Kelly because like it's better showcase your performance. And I think like
yeah, well, it's a hard one for me to say then because I see when I don't get me wrong, I find myself very funny, but also when I watch myself, I'm just like, close your mouth. Who told you to put your hand like that? But you just why you have better posture than that? So
I'm just reminded of the season where Zach Braff finally got nominated for Scrubs after all those years, and he submitted the episode he'd directed, so he obviously felt very connected to that episode, but he wasn't prominent. His performance, he had stronger performances that season,
right.
probably. And it is sometimes hard for the actors to separate the episode that they like the best of the one with their, performance in. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, you know what? Here, the one
Yep.
with the clone. The one with the clone. Boza the clone is a pretty strong piece of television.
Yeah. Well, if you're nominated, Jay, you can get back in touch with us and we can help you out with it too. You don't have to be on your own. If it's keeping you up at night, we'll
right.
the Rosa clone one. Yeah, Rosa clone one could be a good one. Season 3, are we seeing a season 3? If so, when could we expect that?
Yeah, yet to be determined. Breath thoroughly baited. It's we'd all love to keep doing this show because we think it's super funny and it's a really fun place to show up for work every day. And 2 years in, you start to develop kind of a familial thing. So yeah, but again, that's someone else's decision, not mine. So if it ends tomorrow, I'm incredibly psyched with what we did. God willing, it doesn't, and we get to keep doing the best show on television.
Now, you've sort of just wrapped up, I think, directing a film last summer. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. It's called Goon: Last of the Enforcers. It's a sequel to a movie I wrote that came out about 4 or 5 years ago called Goon, about a hockey fighter played by Sean William Scott, and it also had featured Liev Schreiber and Allison Pill and Eugene Levy, and and it was a movie that garnered a great deal of goodwill. I think it shocked a lot of people. A lot of people that had no interest in hockey or fighting, let alone hockey fighting, really sort of fell in love with that movie. And so, took us sort of half a decade to get the right story to kind of to put those characters in because they're quite beloved to a lot of people. But we finally did it, and I got to direct it last summer, and we just locked picture on it on Friday evening, just around supper time. So, it's going to be like going to a rock show. This is a good old time. People will get their money's worth. Our goal with this movie is like, we want people to feel psyched that they spent their $14 or whatever the hell inflated costs, whatever exorbitant amount of money you have to spend to go see a movie now. We want people to get their money's worth. So you go to see our movie, you'll get a real night out. You'll get some real good jokes, some awesome fighting, some really great hockey, and I think people will be shocked at how much they end up kind of giving a shit. And so there might be the odd tear as well. So I adore it, and I just can't wait for the world to see it. And so hopefully that happens sometime this fall.
What's it like being, sort of, as someone who does a lot of acting and comedy and stuff like that, being behind the director's camera?
I adore it, man. Yeah, if only for not having to put makeup on and like wear other shoes that aren't mine. But no, it's sort of, it's just like you kind of swap one bag of stresses for another. But it is, and I don't want to diminish or take away from any of the incredible experiences I've had as an actor. Like, honestly, nothing can touch any of them. Having said that, directing this movie is the most rewarding thing I've ever been a part of. And I've always known in my heart of hearts that, like, I'm probably a better coach than I am a player, and so I was like pretty psyched to show up there and to get to help all my my actors be as awesome as they could be, and help just tell this story. Not that they needed my help, obviously, but it was kind of just fun to sort of, help make them help keep them being as awesome as they could be. So this is all to say, I wanted to direct movies since I was 9 years old, and it finally came to pass. So I'm a very lucky boy.
And when does that come out? Do we know yet, or?
It doesn't have a release date yet, but there's a I don't. There is a certain film festival that we're hoping to appear at. First things first, but before I don't want to, you never say shut out during a hockey game. So I'm not going to say shut out. I'm just going to let it happen. So it will come out hopefully this fall.
Yeah, I'll knock on some wood for you, Jay.
Thank you.
Also, another film that it does have a release date, but in like 5 ages, How to Train Your Dragon 3 is coming out. It's 2018. Excited for that to be coming back out?
It's very, man. I am talking about being a lucky boy. I fell arse backwards into these movies, and I just have like, when I went in and auditioned for number one, when I was like 26 or 27, whatever, like, I'll be 34 this weekend. I never thought we'd be talking about making a third movie. And I never thought that it would, how could you in your wildest dreams assume something's going to resonate globally, right? This is not, so it's a shock, but not a surprise. Like a shock because, like I said, like you never assume anything's going to hit that hard, and continue to hit that hard. But I wasn't surprised because I knew the movies are awesome, and I adore, and I think they're incredible. And I think Dean is like one of the world's great storytellers. So yeah, I'm just psyched as hell to get back in there and to give the world another great adventure.
And like it might seem obvious now, but I feel like How to Train Your Dragon 1 was before the Game of Thrones, dragons sort of like rise in popular culture. Like you were at the front of the wave.
Oh, 100%, man, 100%. No, that's we take great pride and ownership of being first to the dragon zeitgeist.
Yeah, before Daenerys was training her dragons, you were.
Oh no, Hiccup. Yeah. By the way, if push came to shove, Hiccup and the Dragon Riders would smoke Daenerys. Now this is coming from I'm a massive Khaleesi fan. Don't get me wrong, and I assume we probably find some sort of way to all get along. But no, we're the OGs.
Yeah, well, she hasn't spent any time training the dragons.
They're locked up in that like basement pyramid thing, and meanwhile, we're out there every day doing the yeoman's work.
Yeah, you have the training regimen for the dragons.
Thank you very much. We have literally an entire building dedicated to just training dragons.
Yeah, you got the whole obstacle courses and all these sorts of things going on.
That's the thing. Like we have an infrastructure in place that is sorely lacking in Daenerys' world.
Yeah, someone needs to get her some Blu-rays of How to Train.
Hey, thank you very much.
Yeah. Shame. Pipped at the post by Big Hero 6 at the Oscars.
Yeah. It's like that's all gravy. That shit's gravy. It's not to say that like we wouldn't all be over the moon to be recognized like that. Of course we would be, but you don't toil as hard as you do on a movie for that, right? You make a movie for people to connect to, and we have made two that have made a great deal of people across the world incredibly happy, and they enjoy them, and like that's there's no Oscar for that, and we don't need one. So while it would be lovely, third time's a charm, we'll see. But again, that's not why you do it.
And for a sequel to even get nominated, and it was that and Big Hero 6 were the two sort of front runners in that race. For a sequel to get in there and be in the conversations, an accomplishment in itself.
I mean, that's exactly right. It's just like there aren't a ton of sequels that, in the scope of Oscars history, how many sequels, have gotten that kind of love. And I just think that speaks to, how good the flicks are and how good Dean and everyone involved are at what they do.
Well, thanks so much for chatting with us today, Jay. It was really cool to talk Man Seeking Woman and a couple of the movies and stuff you've been involved with. And all the best for the Emmys and for season 3, hopefully, and for the movie release.
Hey, thanks very much for having me. Appreciate the kind words, and have as nice a day as ever.
I will.